Hey everyone, it's Allie, and today's going to be the Day 6 update for our Poison Clash in Pathfinder. Now today we have a absolutely massive update as Betrayal's thing once again works, blowing our DPS into the stratosphere and will change our build around quite a lot for the better. A big patch happened yesterday, and while Betrayal's thing wasn't directly mentioned in the patch notes, my chat was hopeful that it did potentially get changed, and for the sake of us just coping, I guess, we decided to go and fight a Minotaur and test it for ourselves to see if it works. Well, I think their results speak for themselves. First, we went and did a Minotaur with no Betrayal Stings, and I killed it in about 10 seconds or so. And if we look at the bar, it, is dying at a certain rate. And then we tried again with one Betrayal Sting, and as you can see, it's going to be dying significantly faster. While our first kill took 10 seconds, this one took 7 seconds, which could be within margin of error of maybe some poison ramping shenanigans. If that wasn't clear enough for you, we then went and tried again with 2 rings, and well, I think the 80% increased DPS is pretty noticeable as it just dies in 4 seconds. With that, it's honestly all but confirmed that it works, and after my stream, I did get confirmation from Tai that the same GG employee that first told him that it was bugged did also tell him that it's been fixed. Let's go over everything that's going to be changing and get you on your way to having a significantly stronger build. Now, the first thing to mention to you is that the path of building has been updated with all the changes. Most of this is going to be based around the mid game, as quite a lot of things are going to be changing there, but I've also managed to incorporate the ring into the early game so you can have a DPS increase there as well. I do need you to keep in mind that the current end game setup in the path of building is a complete mess because there's quite a lot of changes that are becoming as I'm going to be trying to fit 2 Betrayal Stings into the endgame setup, but I can tell you that setup is going to be an absolute monster in comparison to what it was before. On top of that, we do also have a few other changes that are going to be coming for the build. First off, by popular demand, we are removing the Spectres from the build completely. With Betrayal Sting, you have more than enough damage and you don't really need the extra aura from them, and most people just haven't had a fun time using them, so they're just gone. It also just makes the mid game a lot easier because you don't need to get 155 intelligence anymore, and I feel like for most people that's going to make a really big difference when it comes to fitting everything together. One other thing that this does allow us to do is we can now swap the suffix on our life flask for something else. You can either choose to put the corrupting blood suffix here, meaning all you have to do to roll a perfect flask with build is just alt spam until you hit the correct prefix with an open suffix which you can annul for if you need to, and then just go with Menagerie and have corrupting blood immunity. The other option, which I'm probably going to personally go for because this kind of is going to be the same thing given how strong it's going to be, is the recover an additional 40% of the life flask recovery over 10 seconds if not used on full light. I accidentally had this roll on one of my flasks and actually fell in love with it and how well it felt, and I was kind of sad that we couldn't keep it long term given we'd have to run Spectres. We can outfit it in and it feels great, and it's basically a buffer to any sort of dots you might have to walk through while your life flask isn't active. The final thing we're going to discuss is going to be the removal of Asenaths from the mid-game setup. This is mostly being done just because it's going to make the mid-game setup significantly easier to put together as you have another slot to play with and move around resistances and attributes as needed, and to make up for the fact that we are losing the explosions from Asenath. Betrayal Sting's 40% chance to apply additional poison does end up working with Master Toxis, meaning you're clear with just that on its own is going to feel significantly better. With that, I'd also recommend for you to try and upgrade your large cluster to an Unspeakable Gifts version of it, which is crafted in the same exact way that you crafted your previous one. It's just harder to hit, and between Unspeakable Gifts, Master Toxis, and Betrayal Sting, that basically should feel just as good as Asenaths. The one thing that's going to suck about losing Asenaths is that they have their temporal chains on hit on them, and all we're going to be doing to fix that is we're just going to go and buy ourselves a pair of temporal chains on hit implicit gloves and give them to our mercenary. Now keep in mind here that you do need to find yourself a pair of gloves that does have the correct attributes for either the Toxologist or the Striker. So if you're using a Striker, it has to be your raw strength, strength int, or strength dex pair of gloves, and if you're using a Toxologist, it has to be raw dex, dex int, or dex strength. With that, you'll have the curse on hit for tanky rares and bosses, and it should be just fine. You don't really need it for anything else. What you can do to make that even better is you can then give your mercenary a Anathena instead of using a Call of the Void on it. Sure, this will make you a little bit squishier, but with this, your mercenary will have a limit of 3 curses, which unfortunately we actually don't have a good way of applying all 3, but this does then allow us to go and grab ourselves a double curse on hit pair of gloves, and again, it doesn't matter what the gloves are as long as it has 2 curse on it, and give it to our mercenaries for 2 different effects. Your options here are going to be Tempt Chains and Despair for extra DPS, or Enfeeble for extra HP. Once you do end up doing that, your glove slot is basically open to do whatever you want with it. There isn't going to be a crafting guide for a new pair of gloves because it's just not worth it to craft something. It's just better to go buy it as there really isn't anything we need here in the mid game. And for me, it's just to grab a pair of gloves with some cold res, fire res, a little bit of strength because that's what I needed, and a life prefix. I end up having a open prefix on it, so I end up crafting increased damage during Flask effect for a little bit of extra DPS. Because we now have a pair of gloves, we do need to talk about Eldritch implicits for them, and all we're going to be doing is simply trying to get ourselves chaos damage over time multiplier from the Searing Exarch, and then with either worlds, we're simply going to go for global accuracy rating. With this, your glove swatch should hopefully make everything a lot easier, your Betrayal thing should give you a lot more DPS, your mercenary is going to become even more useful, and overall, your build is just going to feel significantly stronger. If you have any questions on any of this, feel free to leave a comment in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to help you as soon as I can. I also stream on Twitch every single day, so feel free to come by there and ask me any of your questions there. Or if you simply want to come and be a part of our community, feel free to come by our Twitch or our Discord at any time you want to. With all that said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video.